The notice had been tacked to the post office board so long that the sun had bleached its edges pale as bone. Wanted * wife of strong constitution for homestead on the Cimarron. Honesty required. Size no obstacle. Winters are hard. Life is harder. Caleb Ward. Most men who wrote such notices dressed them with pretty promises. Caleb Ward had stripped his down to the truth. Folks said that was why no one answered. Folks were wrong. On a morning when frost smoked off the prairie and the wind cut like a saw, the stage rolled in carrying a woman who had never been small in her life. She stepped down, boots thudding on the planks, coat pulled tight across shoulders broad as a barn door. Her name was Eliza Pike, and she had hands fit for lifting feed sacks and eyes that had learned early to watch the horizon. Caleb was there because he always was. He stood apart from the others, hat low, jaw set, a man whose quiet seemed like a wall. When Eliza saw him, she knew without asking. He was the only one not staring as if she were a curiosity brought in a crate. "You Ward?" she asked. "I am," he said. She nodded once. "Then let's go. Cold's got teeth." They rode out without ceremony. The prairie opened and swallowed the town, and Eliza watched the land roll by, measuring it. She'd been told about Caleb in letters from the agency. Widower, lost his wife to fever, kept to himself. She'd been told about the place too, wind, wolves, distances that made you feel small. None of that troubled her. What troubled her was the way Caleb drove the team, careful and steady, like a man who expected trouble but didn't fear it. They reached the homestead by dusk. The house was sound, squat against the wind. The barn leaned a little, like an old man listening. Smoke rose from the chimney. Inside, Caleb set to making supper while Eliza shrugged off her coat and hung it with care. "Rules," Caleb said as beans simmered. "We're strangers. We'll keep to decency. If this doesn't suit either of us, we part clean." Eliza smiled faintly. "I didn't cross 3 states to quit at the first draft." That night, the wind howled. Eliza woke stiff and cold, the fire gone to ash. She pulled on her boots and went to the stove, fingers clumsy. Caleb appeared, hair tousled, and took the match from her. "Let me," he said. "Your hands." "Big, not numb-proof," she replied, though she stepped back. Days settled into a rhythm. Eliza learned the land and the animals. She was strong, yes, but not the mindless strong some men expected. She knew plants, could mend a harness, could read the sky. Caleb watched and learned in turn. He did not rush her. That alone was a kindness she hadn't known she'd been craving. The trouble came on a day the sky turned the color of old iron. Caleb was late from checking fence lines when the storm broke. Snow drove sideways. Eliza went out anyway, wrapped and braced, following the fence by memory. She found him near the creek, down and shivering, his horse tangled in wire. They got him back with grit and luck. By the time Eliza hauled him inside, Caleb's teeth were chattering so hard she feared they'd crack. She built a fire fierce enough to chase shadows, stripped his wet coat, and wrapped him in blankets. "Cold's in me," he said through shaking lips. "Deep." Eliza remembered her mother's lessons, learned where winters were killers. She fetched a leather bag from her trunk, filled with smooth river stones she'd collected years ago. She set them near the fire until they were hot, not scalding, but alive with heat. Caleb watched, eyes unfocused. "What are you doing?" "Saving you," she said. Then, seeing his confusion, she paused. "I need to put these inside your coat. Close to the skin. It'll draw the cold out." He blinked. "Wait, you're putting that inside me?" She huffed a laugh, nervous but steady. "Not like you're thinking. Don't be a fool." She wrapped the stones in cloth, slid them between blanket and shirt at his sides and chest, careful and respectful. Caleb flinched at the heat, then sighed as warmth seeped in. Eliza stayed close through the night, feeding the fire, changing stones, murmuring to keep him awake. By morning, the storm had blown itself empty. Caleb slept, breathing easy. Eliza finally let herself sit, back against the wall, exhaustion heavy as lead. When he woke, shame colored his cheeks. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," she said simply. The days after were quiet, thoughtful. Something had shifted. Not romance, not yet, but trust. Caleb began to speak of his wife, Ruth, who had laughed like water and died like a candle guttering. Eliza spoke of a childhood where sighs made her useful but rarely cherished. Then came another test. A neighboring rancher rode in hard, claiming a stray calf Eliza had nursed back from death. Voices rose. The man sneered at Eliza's sighs, made a joke sharp enough to cut. Caleb stepped between them, calm as a drawn line. "She's my wife," he said. "And this is our place. You'll mind your words." After the man left, Eliza stood shaking, anger and old hurts boiling. Caleb put a hand on her arm, tentative. She didn't pull away. Winter eased. Spring came muddy and hopeful. They worked side by side, learning each other's silences. One evening, Caleb brought out a small box, plain as his notice had been. "I won't dress this up," he said. "I don't need saving. I want choosing." Eliza opened the box. The ring was simple. She slipped it on, felt its weight. "About time," she said, smiling through tears. Years later, folks would tell the story wrong, with winks and laughs. Eliza would just smile and stir the pot, and Caleb would shake his head. They knew the truth, that what he'd put inside that night wasn't scandal but warmth, not possession but care. And in a land that tried its best to freeze hearts, that had changed everything.